From WLWT, this is Issues.
Well, hi there, everyone. My name's Alexis Rogers, and I'll be filling in for Curtis Fuller today. Welcome to Issues. We are so excited. The summer is in full swing. And of course, with the summer in the Queen City, you know that comes with a lot of exciting opportunities. And so we are going to be going through some of those today, as far as a new book that a lot of you parents out there need to read to allow your child to be ready to go into a successful education journey from the womb to the classroom. Also, we have some tasty treats on deck for you guys today, and how your kids can be a part of it and even maybe have a connection with the Food Network. So joining me now is a well-known author. I like you a lot. There's Dr. Carolyn Teague, Carolyn Nocks Teague. There we go. Yes. And you know, you have such a cool background because you have been an educator for years in many different cities. You have specialized in how the brain works with kids, and you have a new book out. Tell me a little bit about your book, and it's right here. It's right in front of us. It took you 2 years to write. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, I like to talk about why I wrote the book. As an educator, I would see children that had issues. They were bright children, but there were things going on with them that prevented them from being the best that they could be. And it was dumbfounding, and it was very frustrating. Children are my passion. And so I decided to go into research. I worked on a doctorate in brain compatible learning because I think that's important to know how the brain learns, what really motivates children, and what gets them to really learn. And so finally I decided to write this book because I saw so many things that I wanted parents to be aware of, as well as educators. There are things that teachers don't know about to no fault of their own. They're just not taught. And so the book talks about 3 dimensions of learning. Learning that takes place in the womb, learning that takes place in the home, and then learning that takes place in the school. And so the first 2 dimensions of learning, the womb and the home, prepare the student for the school. And there's certain things that parents need to be aware of that so many of them are not aware of that can prepare their children. You can either enable your child or you can stifle your child. And so excuse me, and so in the womb, do you want this much detail?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Actually, there was something particularly that I wanted to hit on with the 3 environments. So you talk about 3 environments in your book. Tell me a little bit about those 3 environments and exactly what we need to look out for in those 3 environments.
Okay, the first environment being the womb. It's too late to decide to do good things for your child when you're already 3 months pregnant. If you plan on getting pregnant, you need to prepare for that months in advance. Get off the cigarettes, leave the alcohol alone, because this definitely has an effect on how the child's brain develops. By 3 months of age in the uterus, the child's brain has formed. Wow. And what you eat and drink, the sounds that you hear, the loud noises, all those things affect the baby. And we just don't understand that. We're not aware of it. What people look at is how big your stomach is, how you're growing, you know. They don't think about how the brain is developing and what's important for that. Okay, so being healthy, talking to your baby, singing to your baby, playing soft music, good nutrition, all very important in that environment. The child is learning. In the second environment, which is the home, parents need to be aware of milestones. And when I say milestones, I mean things that children do at certain ages. They're not always going to be at the exact time. It might be a little sooner, a little later. But if your child should be crawling at around 6 months, if your child is not crawling and they're a year old, you need to get that checked. There's something going on there. And so, but I cover one milestone in particular in the home, and that's crawling. Crawling is crucial to brain development. And when children don't crawl, what happens is that both sides of the brain don't develop. The sensory and the motor connections that they have while they're in the uterus, once they come out of the uterus and they are on the floor, that helps integrate that baby's neural system into the adult. system.
And I think that's so interesting. And before we go to break, we will be able to know that third environment as well. And there's some interesting things that we've been able to learn about, you know, things like if your child is walking on their tippy toes, what that might mean. We've just been talking about all these things. So we will talk about a lot of those when we come back from break. But I'm super excited about it because the more people know, the more they can be proactive.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Teague, I'm excited. We will see you again very, very soon. And of course, we will see you guys right after this break. Well, welcome back and thank you for joining us for this series of issues. And joining me now is Dr. Teague. Dr. Teague has written an amazing book. It's right here in front of us here, and it's called The 3 Dimensions of Learning. And Dr. Teague, we were just going through all of the different environments that you went through 2. Now the third one is what?
The third one is the school. So the first 2 environments, the womb and the home, prepare the child for the school. And if parents are not aware of certain signs and certain symptoms, they won't know what to do to prepare their child for the third environment. So in the school, the most important message that I have for educators is to reach children at an emotional level first, before you introduce academics. The brain gives us a blueprint for dealing with the child. We just need to follow it. So at the center of the brain is the center of emotions. That is important for every child, to be emotionally involved. And so as teachers, I applaud those teachers that really pay attention to that, but there's some that are so busy, they're so caught up in what they have to get done, and I can understand that. I've been there for 30 years, but they have to make time to talk to that child and get to know the child.
And what I think is so interesting about your background, you've studied a lot about brain development, but you've taught in Chicago public schools, you've taught in Cincinnati public schools, you're from Cincinnati. And so you see a lot of kids from different demographics and you see how they grow. I mean, we're talking about things that may happen in the 1st grade that might impact them in the 4th or 5th. Is that kind of what you're seeing?
Absolutely, yeah. Or things in the home even before they get to school that will impact them throughout their lives. So when children don't get to crawl, when they don't spend enough time on their stomachs to integrate that nervous system, they end up with sensory processing disorders. They can end up with vision dysfunction. That's the other thing that I really don't want to miss is that one of the senses that develops after birth is vision. Parents, you can do a lot with your children to improve their vision. So many children suffer with vision dysfunction. They have 20/20 acuity. People think that's all they need, but vision is in the brain. And so they can have a lack of binocularity, which means both eyes are not seeing the same thing at the same time. Or they might have a problem with words floating off the page. Or there's so many things that happen, they don't have good depth perception. This can be fixed in the home when they're still with the parent. And parents just not aware.
And it's so hard sometimes because I'm not a parent, but for my friends and family who are, you're always watching your child, right? You're always trying to figure out, okay, are they doing this right? Are they just taking a little extra time? One thing we were talking about out there was children who always walk on their tippy toes. Kind of explain to me what you've learned about what that might mean.
Well, usually that means that they don't want their feet to touch the ground. They are super sensitive. So like there are 3 categories of a sensory processing disorder. You can be under-responsive, over-responsive, or constantly seeking stimulation. And so those children don't want their feet to touch. They would probably be the same child that hates bright lights or that is just scared to death of loud sounds. If a siren goes off, they scream and run. If a vacuum cleaner is turned on, they just have a total unbelievable reaction. And then there are children who sit by the teacher, and I've had this and I didn't know why. A child would constantly want to rub my leg, or my arm. They just wanted that stimulation. Those are children that constantly seek stimulation. So they're there are all sorts of things that you can see. Children that can't stand certain textures of food. They can't stand tags in their clothing. They don't want their seams of their socks to touch their feet. It goes on. And there's something that parents can do to prevent that. So give your children time on their stomachs. Give them activities that they have to cross over. Right side of the body touching the left side and vice versa. Anything that involves both sides of the body develops the brain, helps with preventing sensory processing disorders.
Well, especially when we talk about how our children are doing, especially in urbanized school districts. I mean, we're seeing vast differences when it comes to how they're testing, how they're displaying their actions in classrooms. And so a lot of times people say, hey, it starts at home, but many times people don't get very specific. Why do you think that is? Is it just from people not knowing or not doing, the research necessary?
I think it's both. They don't know. And then if they don't have time, if they're in a survival mode, if they have to work and they have to provide food, they don't have time to research. And I think that there need to be more programs that talk about this phase of child development, what parents can do to really help. Not just are you feeding your kids the right way, are you playing games with your children, but get down to the nitty-gritty, how the brain develops, how that affects you as a parent, what you can do in the home to make your child successful later on in school. So for children that you're talking about, that where you see the discrepancy between test scores, very often these children don't get to go out riding in a stroller every day. Their vision is not developed the way it's supposed to. They don't have time. The parent has to put them in a car seat or a swing, keep them occupied while they work or do whatever. That causes problems. I mean, I'm not saying that swings are bad. I mean, it's good, it's soothing, but to use the swing as a babysitter, that is a no-no. It's so bad for your kids.
Absolutely. My dad always says that there is no guidebook on how to be a parent. And a lot of times we have all this training for kids, but, parents need a little help too. So it seems like your book does that.
It does, and that was my goal. I want them to be aware. I just, when I see kids in school that have vision dysfunction, I talk to people all over the world, even in Russia, about vision dysfunction. They had no clue that it existed. They felt that if they went to an optometrist and had their children's vision checked, good. No. So I can't stress that enough. There's a behavioral, can I mention her doctor's name?
Absolutely. Dr.
Beth Munzel is one of the best behavioral optometrists that I know. There are very few in the country. And so if you see your child maybe leaning to one side all the time when doing their work or reading, it's probably because both eyes are not working the same way at the same time. And the light doesn't hit their eye at the same time, the same way. So they lean so that the light gets into that good eye. Those are things to pay attention to. There's so many things in the book that I mentioned I don't have time to talk about here, but just know that if you have time, do research on vision dysfunction, do research on crawling, the importance of belly time, and know what you need to do when you are thinking about getting pregnant.
Dr. Teague, thank you so much for joining us here on Issues. And of course, her book is available online as well. And so we have that information. And of course, we'll have it on our website at WLWT.com. Thank you again.
Thank you.
A guide for a lot of parents out there.
Thank you.
Well, of course, we will see you very, very soon. And up next, we have a tasty treat for you now that you've learned a lot. You might have had an appetite worked up. So we have a tasty treat that your kids could possibly be learning from. But in the meantime, 3 dimensions of learning. You can get it online. Dr. Teague, thank you very much. We'll see you right after the break. Well, welcome back and thank you for joining us for Issues. My name is Alexis Rogers. I am in for Curtis Fuller today. And of course, we had a lot of knowledge before, but now your tummies might like this next guest that we have, Ms. Plesinger-Kinebrew, the owner of Sweet Petit. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, every time I see Taren, I'm like, oh, Taren, what do you have for me, girl? I always love all the goodies that you have, but what I love about Taren is that Taren is always teaching people. You're a local gal, and we can find your business in OTR. Now tell me, kids, this summer, everybody's wondering what they can do with their kids, and you are giving kids tangible skills in the kitchen. Tell me a little bit about your kids camp and your classes.
Absolutely. So our kids camps, I'm hosting about 5 to 6 kids every month. So a new group I get every month. And they go through a 4-week process. So they learn how to bake something new each week. And of course they get to take, excuse me, they get to take all of the treats home to share or not. But it's essential because they do everything. It's literally a hands-on baking class. And most of the kids that I get, they are Food Network watchers. They love all the baking championship shows and all this stuff. And so it makes for me to teach the class very easy. So we just kind of gel together for those 4 weeks, and then at the end, what they receive is a certificate of completion, a hand mixer so they can continue to bake, and then they get a personalized junior chef's apron. So it's a lot of fun, and we have a great time.
And I see your kids in the video there. I mean, they look like they have so much fun, and it looks like they're all different kinds of ages. So how old can the kids be, and what are the kinds of things that they get to make?
Yes, so I've taken them as young as 6. On our website it says 10, and the main reason for that is I will pretty much take any age as long as they can stay focused and follow directions, because obviously the class is going at a certain pace and I just need them to be able to keep up. So, you know, I had a 6-year-old and she was absolutely amazing. But what I learned from her was that she knew a lot about being in the kitchen. So I was very impressed, you know, just with her knowledge. And I will take them as old as whatever. So if an adult wants to be a part of the kids baking class, I tell them to come on, because everybody's working independently. So it's not about a certain age group being in the class. It's just about coming together and them working independently and coming up with their finished product at the end.
Now, I do have to say, I see, so these are all the things that the kids get to make, right?
Yes.
I'm getting so hungry even just looking at them. So let's see, what do we have here? We have a macaroon. They get to know how to make those from scratch?
They do. So that's the last class. So the class, how I set it up is it's a build on each other. So it gets a little bit harder each week. So the macaroons take the longest to make. So they get to learn how to make a really good cupcake. Because kids are crazy about cupcakes, they get to learn how to make brownies so that they don't have to use a box mix any longer. And the other thing that they get to make, they have a choice between making cheesecake or making double chocolate chip cookies.
Oh my goodness, you're killing me right now.
I know.
Everybody's diet's going out the window. Well, what I really love about your class is you talk to a lot of the kids about purpose and finding their purpose. And recently, not only are you a business owner and not only are you helping out with kids, but you recently wrote a book talking just about that. Tell me a little bit about this book.
Absolutely. So the name of the project that I'm a part of is called Dear Fear. And it is a movement. So it is a book, an anthology of a group of women who basically we talk about how we have overcome our fear. And so for me, fear has always shown up in my purpose. And so that's what my chapter deals with, because I'm always speaking about making sure, even for kids, that you're operating in your purpose, figuring that out. And the sooner you figure it out, to me, I feel like you can live life more freely. So it has been a whirlwind. I have a book signing coming up, and right now everybody can pretty much get the books from me. They can get them from Amazon, but if they purchase from me, I'm doing all signed copies and taking pictures. And so yeah, it's been a labor of love.
You know, when I first got to Cincinnati, everybody was like, have you been to Sweet Petit? Have you been to Sweet? And I'm like, okay, I like sweet things. I'm not petite, but where is this place at?
Yes.
And once we got there, it kind of seems like the community feel, and it seems like at your bakery, you know, you're always teaching people. Every time I come in there, someone's learning something.
Yes, yeah, and that's really what it's all about. You know, it's something that I love to do. is, you know, obviously being in this business, I talk to a lot of people, and, you know, people really were pulling on me to teach these classes. And it just came really second nature just because I grew up in the kitchen. And so this was my way to show how it affected me. And there's lots of conversation that happen in a kitchen. And so when people come together, you know, you are kind of working in your element, but you're relaxed, you know, focused at the same time on what you're doing, but you're relaxed, and you know, it just makes for a really fun time.
Listen, life lessons happen in kitchen conversations.
Yes, they do.
I feel like somebody needs to put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, well, yes.
Sweet Petit on the back.
That's right.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know, I love what you're doing, and I know that you so often are teaching so many people. And it just seems like when it comes to purpose and when it comes to fear, all those things, everybody has to deal with those things.
Absolutely. It's a part of your everyday life. And so it's just figuring out, how do I move past the fear? You know, don't allow it to make you immobile. You know, don't let it stop you. You know, figure out, how do I get around it and keep going? Because this too shall pass, as they say, right? So you just have to you know, get your bearings and then figure it out and then move past it. And, you know, if we wasn't faced with fear, you know, there are so many things that we wouldn't even know. But you just have to get a handle on it, and everybody can do that. You know, you just have to be in tune with your inner self.
And a couple cupcakes won't hurt.
And a couple of cupcakes won't hurt at all.
I love that. Thank you so much, Taren, for joining us and checking out your book as well as the classes for kids. When's the next class coming up? In July, right?
The next class is coming up in July, so it starts July 14th. And they can basically reach out to me or stop by the store, or shoot me an email, whatever's easiest. I'm on all social media platforms, and I will take care of them. We have 2 spots available. Wow. So we're pretty much halfway full. So yeah, so I'm excited.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll have everything that you need to know about Sweet Petit, as well as the class, as well as the book on our website at WLWT.com. And of course, we are so excited to see you. And we're excited that you brought treats. That means you get to come back.
Absolutely, anytime. Hey, yes.
I love that. I love that a lot.
Thank you so much.
Well, of course, we have more to learn always. Summertime in Cincinnati, it's always fun. And of course, we will be able to tell you more of those things on Issues with more great guests. Plesinger-Kinebrew, everyone, thank you so much for joining us and letting us learn about your book. We'll be right back after this break. We've gotten a chance to learn so much on Issues today, from learning how to allow your kid to be very successful from the womb to the classroom in 3 dimensions of learning, and also how to give your child a chance to go ahead and learn how to cook at Sweet Petit. We have all of this on our website at WLWT.com. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.